Daniel and the Dragon, the story of faith and wisdom. In the ancient kingdom of Babylon, under the rule of King Cyrus, there was a mighty idol called Bel. The people worshipped it, believing it was a living god, because each night great amounts of food were placed before it. And by morning, the food was gone. King Cyrus turned to Daniel, his most trusted advisor, and said,
"Surely, Daniel, you see that Bel is a living god. Look at how much he eats and drinks every night."
But Daniel shook his head and replied,
"No, my king. This idol is nothing but stone and clay. It does not eat or drink."
The king was curious. He challenged Daniel, saying,
"Then prove it."
Daniel had a plan. That night, he secretly sprinkled fine ashes all over the floor of the temple before the priests came to leave food. The next morning, the king and Daniel entered the temple. The food was gone, just as always. But Daniel pointed to the floor, and there, in the ashes, were footprints, not of Bel, but of the priests and their families who had been sneaking in to eat the food. King Cyrus was furious. He had been deceived. He ordered the priests to be executed and destroyed the idol of Bel. But Babylon had another so-called god, a great dragon, a living creature, worshipped as divine. The king turned to Daniel again and said,
"You cannot deny that this is a living god. It breathes, it moves. Worship it."
But Daniel stood firm.
"No, my king, I only worship the Lord, the true living God."
Daniel thought for a moment. Then, with wisdom given by God, he came up with a clever plan. He took pitch, tar, fat, and hair, and mixed them together into lumps. Then he fed them to the dragon. The great beast swallowed them whole. And moments later, the dragon burst open. The people were in shock. Their so-called god was nothing more than flesh and blood. Now, the people of Babylon were outraged. They stormed to the king and demanded,
"Kill Daniel! He has destroyed our gods."
Fearing the anger of the people, King Cyrus threw Daniel into a den of lions, where he was meant to be torn apart. But once again, God was with Daniel. For 7 days, Daniel remained in the lion's den, untouched, unharmed. Meanwhile, far away in Judea, the prophet Habakkuk was preparing food when suddenly an angel of the Lord appeared and lifted him into the air. In an instant, Habakkuk was transported to Babylon, right into the lion's den. He gave Daniel food and said,
"Eat, my brother, for God has not forgotten you."
On the 7th day, King Cyrus returned, expecting to find Daniel's remains. But to his amazement, Daniel stood there alive and well. The king fell to his knees and cried out,
"Truly, Daniel's God is the real God."
and so Daniel was freed and his enemies were punished. Morale of the story: faith in God brings wisdom, protection, and victory. The end.